Welcome to the Prince Eats. Check out this video on how to prepare Mongolian beef in simple and easy fashion. Ingredients are in the description. If after watching this video you enjoyed it and found it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Of course, the star of this show is beef. Here I have a pretty healthy cut of flank steak. As you can see, it's very lean and you might be wondering how we'll tenderize this steak. We'll get into that later. If you're working with a large piece of flank steak like how I am, you'll need to cut it into pieces so that it's easier to manage and slice strips. As you probably already are aware, flank steaks are linear pieces of beef. In order to get those perfect strips, I'll cut them into fours, and that will make it easier to slice beef strips. However, at the same time, this process should be as intuitive as possible. As you can see, I flipped the steak sideways and I'm cutting them on the shorter piece of the steak so that the pieces are more manageable, especially if you're looking for a bite-sized piece of steak. But really it all depends on you. If you desire a larger piece of steak, you can cut them bigger. If you're looking for a smaller bite-sized piece, certainly you can cut these strips smaller. One thing to keep in mind is the time it will take to marinate these pieces of steak. So if you're short on time, you'll probably need to cut smaller pieces of steak. If you have ample opportunity to marinate, you can go as big as you desire. My rule of thumb is if you're doing this on a weekday for a weeknight meal, stay with medium to small pieces. This will shorten the amount of time it takes to marinate and tenderize the beef. Once you're all done slicing, place the beef into a bowl and set it to the side. Take this short time to clean your cutting board or move it to the side so that you can prepare your work area to season the beef. When you are ready, grab the beef. Here we're going to introduce the seasoning aspect and also some additional ingredients that will assist in tenderizing the beef. Here I'm adding baking soda and cornstarch. The baking soda will help to tenderize the beef. Next, I'll introduce the dark soy sauce. The dark soy sauce is slightly sweeter and richer than the light soy sauce. This soy sauce will add darker color to the steak once it's seared. We'll get to that point shortly. Once you add those three ingredients for the marinade, you can go ahead and mix those ingredients together so that it's evenly incorporated into the beef. If you're like me, you'll probably want to use a glove to perform this step. It certainly isn't necessary if you're working with clean hands, but I'm all about limiting cross-contamination and limiting contamination in general as much as possible. So oftentimes in my videos, you'll see that I'm working with gloves whenever I directly touch meat or other kind of foods that can absorb any of the acids from your hands. And while I'm on the subject of cross-contamination, whenever you're working with beef, chicken, seafood, poultry, or any meat in general, also make sure that you clean your work area to prevent cross-contamination. Next, you can grab a skillet and put it over medium-high heat. Once you've let the meat marinate for approximately 30 minutes, it should be tender enough and ready to cook. As you can see, the beef is slightly darker and a little more defined. Essentially, that is the baking soda and dark soy sauce at work. You'll see how tender the beef becomes later in the video. Once your skillet is hot, add a little bit of vegetable oil, just enough to lightly coat the bottom of the pan. You'll know that the oil in pan is hot enough when you notice that the oil starts to simmer. While you wait, you can give the beef one last toss before it goes in the pan. And when you're ready, carefully place the beef into the pan. Be careful not to create any splashes. Remember that you're working with hot oil. Once the beef is in the pan, move it around a little to ensure the beef makes even contact with the bottom of the pan. Doing so will promote a more consistent and even sear on this beef. You don't want to skip this step if plating presentation is what you desire. As you can see here, I was able to establish quite a bit of color and caramelization on this beef. Just let the beef sit for approximately 2 to 3 minutes on each side and you'll develop this color as well. I also recommend that if you're not familiar with using a stainless steel or a cast iron skillet, opt for a non-stick skillet. It really will reduce a lot of mess. After the beef is cooked on both sides, transfer it to a clean plate and put it to the side. In the same pan, you're going to keep the heat on medium-high and we're going to cook the vegetables. If your pan is too dry, you might need to add a little bit more oil, and at the same time, if it's too dry because the heat is too high, reduce the heat to medium or as appropriate. As you can see, the onions, green pepper, and red pepper that I use for this dish are large and rustic in orientation. This Mongolian beef recipe is all about size and presence on the plate, so go for larger pieces of vegetables. Cook for approximately 3 to 5 minutes until slightly tender. You still want your veggies to have bite, so try not to overcook the veggies. When done, remove from the heat and put it to the side. If you're like me, you're going to use a wok for this last phase, or if not, you can use any pan that you desire to finish off this dish. Put the pan over medium and add some oil. Lightly toast the garlic and ginger until fragrant. Keep an eye out on it and try not to burn the garlic. Next, you'll pour in a slurry of seasonings and sauces. This slurry consists of a combination of hoisin, soy sauce, chili garlic sauce, and white vinegar. Beef stock is used as a thinner if the sauce is too thick. Check the description of this video for the full list of ingredients for this sauce and also the entire meal. Once the slurry is in the pan, turn the heat up to medium-high and add the beef. Gently place the beef into the pan and be careful not to create any splashes. We're giving the beef a head start in the event it needs to finish cooking. Afterwards, you can go ahead and dump in the veggies. Be careful not to create any splashes. Immediately begin to toss around the beef and the veggies with your spatula. We want to make sure that the veggies and the beef are evenly coated in the sauce. I recommend using a long spatula if you'll be using a wok. At this point in time, everything is cooked. The longer you let it sit in the pan, the more the sauce will thicken, because remember, we did use cornstarch on the beef. All that's left to do is plate over some white rice and dinner is served. Visit theprinceeats.com and The Prince Eats on all social media outlets for more simple and easy meal ideas just like this one.